Snap Studios. Did you know there's a cannabis company that ships federally legal THC right to your door? I'm talking about Mood.com's incredible line of functional gummies. And you can get 20% off your first order at Mood.com with promo code SNAP. Whether you're looking for help with focus, cramps, or even intimacy, Mood has a gummy for that. Best of all, not only is every Mood product backed by a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but as I mentioned, listeners get 20% off their first order with code SNAP. So head to Mood.com, find the functional gummy that matches exactly what you're looking for, and let Mood help you discover your perfect mood. And don't forget to use promo code SNAP when you check out to save 20% on your first order. Summer is here, and 365, Whole Food Market's house brand, has everything you need for delicious summer fun. For less, no matter who is coming over. And the Snap tip is to look for hundreds of yellow, low-price signs that help you save without compromising the quality you expect from Whole Foods Market. Find them on meats, boneless chicken breasts, more, all no biotics ever. You can find great low prices in-store and online. Shop Whole Foods Market for everyday high-quality, low-price items. Terms apply. There are so many ways to save on summer grilling favorites at Whole Foods Market. Okay, so back when it used to rain in California, I'm driving down the 580 Interstate Freeway, going to the grocery store, wife, little boy, little girl, myself. Then, no notice, a rainbow blazes in front of us, intense. And I don't mean in front of us up in the sky where it's supposed to be. I mean right in front of us, right there in front of us. We're driving, and then the air shimmers golden for 3, maybe 5 seconds, and then there's no more rainbow. My little girl shouts, "There it is!" And I see it in the rear view mirror. We had just driven through a rainbow. And I'm upset, furious. Number one, I didn't think that was supposed to be possible. My science teachers all lied to me, but really, I'm angry because I always wanted to get to the end of the rainbow, and I finally do. And it's in the middle of the interstate highway. No leprechauns, no pot of gold. I feel robbed until I check the back seat and see their little faces, radiant, beaming, delighted, still touched with magic. Today on Snap Judgment, we proudly present The End of the Rainbow. Stories from real people finding a different version of what they're looking for. My name is Glenn Washington. Now, I just want to catch Bigfoot because you're listening to Snap Judgment. We begin 1994. MJ Fiev is a teenage bookworm living in the hillsides of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. MJ lives a real-life story from a real-life time and place that references domestic abuse and gun violence. Now, there's a trade embargo on in the country, meaning rolling blackouts and gas shortages. But it also means that school's out for the time being, which gives young MJ plenty of time to hole up in her room with her favorite activity. Snap Judgment.
When I was 13, I was always reading. Reading was this way of seeing how other people lived, but also what my life could be. I remember being particularly attracted to this one character named Fantomette. She was a superhero without supernatural powers, and she was just a kid doing what kids do in addition to solving mysteries. And I think that's what I wanted those characters lived their lives and went after what they wanted, no matter what was happening in their environment. One day I was reading the newspaper. I found this ad for a program in the Dominican Republic. It was a one-year program for people who were interested in the medical profession, but they were recruiting people my age. You come to this medical school and you get to stay on campus, you get to meet doctors, you get to visit the hospital. I think, oh my God, being admitted meant that I could leave Haiti and go to the Dominican Republic. I would be on campus. I would wake up every day with a purpose. This is an answer to my prayers. So after I told my sister, Patricia, about the ad, we started calling. I would call, she would call just to help me. It might have been 2 weeks where we tried to call and call. And finally, they did pick up the phone. They gave me a time, a place, date, and the name of the person that I'm supposed to see. The name of the guy was Gabriel. I told my mom because I was hoping, well, she's going to take me there. We're going to get information. And my mom said, absolutely not. You're a minor. You're not going to go to a foreign country on your own. I tried my dad. He was a very controlling father, but he really valued learning. So I figured, well, maybe he will see it as this great opportunity, something that no one else is doing. But he was not happy at all that I was even considering it. His point was that I wouldn't be safe there because they didn't like Haitians in the Dominican Republic. And since I was going to be isolated from my family, there would be no one to protect me. He also questioned the validity of the program. He's like, well, I've never heard someone going to the Dominican Republic to become a doctor. I could understand some of his concerns, but that didn't stop me from wanting to go. My parents were not going to change their minds. So I decided, well, if they're not going to let me go willingly, I'm just going to run away. I told my sister I was going to leave. And she's like, why are you still pursuing this? I'm like, because I have to. And I was kind of irritated that she didn't see how urgent it was for me to leave. She couldn't see that I had almost reached my breaking point and that mentally I was worried that I couldn't take it anymore. There was always the threats and the hitting just for mundane, like minor things. In the case of my dad, it might be the way he pronounces your name, the way his mouth forms. The expression changes slightly, or a movement with his hand showing that he's getting frustrated. My heart starts beating a little faster. I get goosebumps. It's like a little thing could set him off. One time he was just mad at one of my sisters because she had been out and she came back maybe 15 minutes after curfew. And he's yelling, threatening to hit her, eventually hitting her. And my other sister just couldn't take it anymore and jumped off the balcony. And we ended up having to take her to the hospital because she broke her legs. I feared for my life. It might sound like it was kind of an on-the-moment decision, but it's something that had been coming. So it's the morning of the interview. I'm getting ready. I remember wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I live in the mountains and I'm trying to get to the city. I wanted to be comfortable. First, I check on my dad. He's watching TV in his bedroom. He's too busy watching whatever it is, whatever match he was watching that day. I go downstairs and it's just very quiet Because my mom is usually the one who brings life to the house. She's at church, I believe, so she's not around. So I'm leaving the house. I just had this feeling of being free. And I realized that it might be the last time that I ever see home. Maybe it wasn't a realistic thought, but that's how it felt. So I know that I have to go to the main road, catch one of those buses. They're gonna take me down the mountain. Then you have to take like a taxi to take you to a specific point. It was a place on Place d'Italie. Whenever there's carnival in Haiti, Place d'Italie was that one place where all the musicians gathered. So I'm leaving the side road so I can get to the main road and flag down a bus. And there's a couple of stalls. There's this man selling cigarettes and candy and other things. I had never smoked in my life before, but I'm like, well, I can imagine this new person. She's sophisticated and free, and she's probably going to smoke. And I remember stopping by, buying a cigarette, and having no idea of how to even light it. Someone had to stop to tell me how to do it. And then, of course, I started coughing. So I had to just flag down a bus and they stop. We're going down the mountains and there's cars going up and down, women with bundles on their head, going to the market or coming back from the market. Some people on the bus, they looked at me like I was crazy because I was on my own. I was obviously a kid. And it did make me feel like a superhero. And that's where people really started telling me about what was going on downtown. And they were telling me to be very careful. Aristide, the president of Haiti, has recently been ousted from the country. People are in the streets every day protesting, and they had semi-automatic weapons, singing their rage. But I felt invincible. There's nothing that can happen that's going to be worse than what's going on at home. I just know whatever they ask me to do, I'm ready to do it. So if they say, hey, we're leaving today, actually, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Although I don't have any bags with me. And I'm not thinking about the logistics. I'm just focused on that light at the end of the tunnel. The trip took about 2 hours. I get to Place d'Italie, and as soon as I leave the taxi, the first thing I see is a barricade. Some tires, a wood, and some branches. I have to go through the barricade, get into the crowd, and from there, I have to find the building that I'm looking for. Some guys are standing there. They have rifles, and I remember being asked what I was doing there, and I'm like, well, I have to meet with someone in there, and them warning me that whatever happens to me is not their responsibility. Everyone is on their own in there. So they let me through. The crowd was huge. I could see people as far as 10, 15 blocks. There's a guy with loudspeaker kind of reminding everyone why they're there. A lot of the protest had to do with hunger, with not being able to afford a life. People, they're singing, which basically means I don't kid around when I'm empty-bellied. There was another song about if Aristide, the president, was ever to return, Si Aristide n'a point les hommes, Seigneur. Si Aristide n'a point les hommes, Seigneur. Which basically means if Aristide comes back, people would get armed and attack. This is real. I'm not feeling invincible anymore. But I'm going through that huge crowd and trying to make sure that I get to the building. Everyone is sweaty. You can smell Vaseline. You can smell Dax products. There was the green Dax. There was the black Dax. And I remember smelling both of them. The crowd is moving me. It's not like I see the building and I'm walking toward it. I'm trying to see the building. And before I know it, I'm in front of it. They told me a building, but it felt like a very private house. There were like a few pieces of furniture in there. People were playing dominoes. Someone was cooking lunch. I asked for Gabriel because that's the name I was given. So someone said, let me go check and see where he is. She comes back and she says, oh, well, apparently he's not here. He's out of town. Nobody knows where he is. I did ask about the program and nobody at that table knew. They knew who Gabriel was, but that was it. The interview is not happening. I just had that gut feeling that it was over. It's not like, oh, he's not there today because something happened. I'm never going to meet this Gabriel. This program is just not going to happen. I just need to stop. And I had this feeling where I'm stuck because there's nowhere else to go. I was devastated. As soon as I leave the premises, I'm just engulfed again by the crowd. It feels even tighter than it was before. People were barely moving. And I feel like I can barely breathe. People are singing, people are yelling, pushing. It's really hot. I'm really thirsty. There's a sense that something was going to happen. I just couldn't put my finger on what it was. The way people are acting around me, maybe a change in the noise. And then I heard the shooting. I'm looking for cover. Suddenly I feel hands on me, on my shoulders and at some point on my back. I'm thinking that maybe those are the attackers. I realize they're pushing me behind a big trash can that's on the side of the street. Someone is actually grabbing me, and for those few minutes we were just together lying in the trash. I remember hearing him breathe next to me, maybe feeling his breath. The sky was so beautiful still, but here we are lying in trash. Finally, the shooting stopped. People start emerging from wherever they were hiding. There's this woman who's been shot in the leg, and people are trying to help her. There are other people who got run over. They're holding parts of their body. And I was able to look at the person who had brought me to safety. I couldn't tell how old he was, but there was something wise about him. I don't know if it was me projecting because he saved me. I guess he was just one of those people who are very stoic even when things go bad. The guy asked me if I knew where I was going, if I had people with me that I need to find. Now that dream is gone, where am I gonna go? The country is not that small, but it feels very small because everybody knows everything. There's nowhere in Haiti where you could hide. I would be found. The only place I thought I could go was home. I had to go back home. No matter what was going on at home, that was what was regular, what was normal, and I needed to go back to normalcy. He offered to take me home, and I said yes. I don't remember much talking on our way up the mountains because all I could do was replay what had happened. I didn't want to even talk about it, even to someone who had been there. It was still daylight when I got home. My mom is on the balcony and she's taking care of her plants. When she sees me, my mom asks me, "Oh, what happened to you? You're dirty." And I can smell myself. I still smell like trash. I'm sweaty. I'm just so greasy. And I tell her, I was in the neighborhood and I fell. So she briefly looked at me and she said, "Well, make sure you change as soon as possible." That was it. They didn't even notice that I was gone. I felt that it was a reflection of what I had been going through the entire time. Like, I'm hurting on the inside, and many people don't even notice. I went straight in and washed up. It felt like a failure, but I felt that the intensity of the wanting to leave hasn't gone away. I was reading a book titled The Maid, and one quote was, "If the end is not happy, then it's not the end." So I'm like, what am I gonna do next? I had started getting a bag ready. I'm not packing a lot of things, just the basics like toothbrush, a few clothes, deodorant, a picture with me and my sister, and a few other things. And I became determined to get the end that I felt the story needed.
The story of MJ Fieb was far from over. After high school, MJ did end up going to medical school, but she realized it wasn't quite her calling. She moved to the United States, where she now works as a full-time writer. You can read more about her childhood in Haiti in her memoir, A Sky the Color of Chaos. She's working on a book series that uplifts Black women and girls. You can check out all that and more at badassblackgirl.com. The original score for this piece was by Lalin St. Juste. It was produced by David Exumé. More amazing storytelling for you when Snap Judgment, the End of the Rainbow episode, continues. Stay tuned. Snap Judgment is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states. In trying to get a better understanding of what's going on with my skin and inside my body, I chose Function because it's the only health platform that gives you access to the kind of data most people never see and the insights that actually take action. In fact, did you know there are nearly 30 different biomarkers that can impact your skin more than your skincare routine? Because breakouts and dryness and redness are not just surface issues, they're internal signals, and Function can help you see them more clearly. Your levels of vitamin D, zinc, iron, vitamin A, estradiol, testosterone, glucose, insulin. Function helps you stop blaming the products and start understanding the patterns. Because your skin is a mirror, and Function gives you the data to read it. Function is offering 160-plus lab tests for $365 to anyone who signs up between July 7th and July 11th. To learn more and get started, visit functionhealth.com. mood.com/snap. Welcome back to Snap Judgment, the end of the rainbow episode. Today, we're looking at what happens when you get at least a version of what you want. And for the next story, our hero, he had some very simple demands. Snap Judgment.
So this story is brought to us by a person with a very cool job.
Yeah.
Her name is Nancy Pope,
Hi there.
and she is a curator at the Smithsonian.
Actually, at the National Postal Museum. Because, history, truth, you gotta kind of do that.
But back in 1984, when she first got to the Smithsonian, Nancy was given a really boring newbie task, organizing old photos in the archives.
And some of these photos I started looking, it's like it's a dog. It's a dog laying down on mailbags. It's a dog sitting on mailbags. It's a dog. And I started looking, what is the thing with the dang dog?
That's when one of her coworkers told her to go down to the third floor and see for herself.
And I went down and they had all the stamps and a little post office and some mailboxes and a dead stuffed dog. Onie.
Onie. That was the dog's name, the one she saw in the photographs. And now here he was, in the flesh. Kinda.
The hair was mangy, the eyes were smoky, and he did not look like, a cute little dog. He just looked like some little, creepy monster.
The dog had actually been in that case since 1911.
And at one point, we lifted the case up maybe an inch, and this stench came flying out. We almost dropped the case and broke it right then and there. It was the smell of almost a century of dead dog, and it was the most horrible smell that I have ever smelled in my entire life.
Okay, so not a great first impression, but here's the thing. Once upon a time,
he had been the world's most famous canine, the only dog to travel around the world, and there was widespread mourning when he died.
Nancy says that Onie's story begins in Albany, New York, way back in the winter of 1888, when a puppy belonging to one of the clerks at the local post office followed him to work one day. The puppy, Onie, was just a scruffy little mutt then, nothing special. But when the clerk left, Onie stayed.
Because the pup loved the smell of mailbags. And the dog would head straight for a pile of empty mailbags that are off in the corner and just kind of snuggle up, wiggle around in him, and go to sleep for the night.
Onie loved the smell of mailbags so much that he would actually follow them onto the mail wagons that were bound for the train yard. If a bag ever fell off, he'd jump off with it and guard the bag until a postal clerk, and only a postal clerk, came by to pick it up.
Maybe he recognized the uniform. I honestly don't know.
Until one day, Onie took his love of mailbags a step further. When the wagon he was on arrived at the rail yard, he actually followed the bags onto one of the trains.
And the clerks could have just thrown him off at that point, but they didn't. So, he just went to Boston.
Nancy says that back then, a train's mail car was a place of almost constant activity. You have to imagine postal employees frantically sorting an endless variety of packages, dodging kerosene lamps, trying to get everything ready for delivery before each and every stop. But in the midst of the chaos, there was a little corner where discarded mailbags lay in a pile. That's where Onie sat on this first trip. Comfortable, just watching them do their work.
And when the train opened up its doors in Boston, Onie jumped out and traveled with the mailbags on the wagon to the Boston post office. Sat around there a little bit, and the next day, he went on the train and went back to Albany.
Thus was established a pattern whereby Onie became a regular on these regional rail lines. Nothing too ambitious, just day trips.
But the railway postal clerks were family, and when a clerk got to the end of his line, he would start talking about this dog.
As Onie's reputation grew among the postal employees, so did his network of available trains. It's like he had the 19th century version of a Europass, only with mail cars.
And then he started branching out through Cleveland, Philadelphia, and then Washington, D.C. He loved Brooklyn.
But of course, that was just the Northeast. He also went south.
To Mobile, Alabama, Jackson, Florida, Atlanta.
And to the Midwest.
Fort Wayne, Indiana, Wichita, Grand Rapids, in Minneapolis, Kansas City, St. Louis, Butte.
And everywhere else.
Albuquerque, Reno.
Oh my God.
Cincinnati, Denver.
Now I'm going to stop you.
Yeah, it was, you name a state, he was there.
By 1889, there were reports of Onie in California.
So we know that within a year, he's crossed the country.
This is the part where I hate to poke a hole in it, and maybe I shouldn't.
Oh,
but,
poke a hole.
How much independence does this dog have in these decisions to be branching out? Is he like at the train station and he sees a train car and he's like, that one looks good, and like decides all on his own?
Well, there was a lot to be said for that. Onie really did just jump on any old train he wanted and go wherever he wanted to go.
When Onie got to a town, he always followed the same routine. He would get out of the train, take the mail wagon to the post office, and then spend the night. Usually at the local postmaster's house, who always made sure that there were some mail bags for Onie to sleep on.
And before long, newspapers across the country, if Onie was in town, the publisher said, you got to go out and do a story on the dog.
Onie proved so popular that eventually it wasn't enough that he simply come to town. People wanted to prove that he'd been there. So they started putting these customized tags on his collar. Sometimes it was an official tag with the name of the town. Other times someone would hastily scratch their name on a hotel key and loop that through his collar. Lots of people gave him these little metal coupons.
And, if Onie had wanted to, he could have gotten 5 cents off for a loaf of bread at one spot, free drinks at the bar at a couple of others. He could have had a great night on the town if he was a person.
Elaborate feasts were routinely held in Onie's honor. So rich and filling were the meals that the day after one such dinner in Providence, Rhode Island, Onie took one look at a free steak and walked away.
And he just puts his nose up at it like, I'm still full. I can't handle a steak.
Onie had all the benefits of fame and none of the costs. He was a dog. He didn't know he was famous. He didn't feel any of the pressure, didn't worry about all the attention. He was free to just be, at least for the first few years.
But then it gets to the point where, as Onie got more and more famous, the clerks start actually putting him on a train. Like, Onie needs to go on this train, wouldn't that be fun?
Slowly but surely, the freewheeling hobo of everyone's imagination was no longer quite so freewheeling. Increasingly, in the very same articles that extolled Onie's freedom, you could read all about the cities where he could be found next. It was freedom scripted.
But the height of Onie being handled by clerks was obviously the trip around the world.
The trip was a marketing stunt put on by the city of Tacoma. They were trying to one-up their more famous neighbor, Seattle. So, with the consent of the post office, they sent Onie packing on a mail ship to East Asia.
Where he got a passport from the Emperor of Japan.
Then on to China and India.
Through the Suez Canal.
And then, via the Azores, back to America.
He made it in 118 days.
By this point, Onie was so famous that European newspapers issued heated editorials wondering why Onie had skipped their continent entirely. It seemed like everyone wanted a piece of him.
And when he would go to each of these foreign lands, he was trotted out. And Onie, who knows whether he was happy or not. But as the clerks started kind of ruling his life, people added more and more tags to his collar. Businesses love to put something on him because it's free advertising for your business, which is fine, except, you think the collar around the dog's neck, you add 10 tags, one thing, you start adding 20, 30 tags, the poor dog's not going to be able to lift his head up.
Every time Onie returned to Albany, the clerks made sure to take the tags off. Eventually, they had to give him a harness to accommodate all the extra weight, but even that was rarely enough.
The Smithsonian has 347 tags. It has been said in a lot of reports that he had over 1,000, which is easy for me to believe. But I really think that Onie needed to stop riding the trains. Clerks were saying that he didn't look good. He didn't look well.
Onie was growing increasingly irritable, especially when people tried to touch the tags on his harness, either to add or remove them. He also started fighting back when clerks tried to force him onto a particular train. He was just getting stubborn and old.
So a clerk in St. Louis took him in. And I think in his time in the clerk's backyard, he started to relax and be his old dog self. And we know that Onie had enough free will that if he didn't want to stay there, he wouldn't have. But there were some clerks that just didn't want to hear that. You know, to them, Onie belonged on the train cars.
So the clerks borrowed Onie for one last joyride. They put him on a train bound for Toledo. And at first, everything was the same as it always had been. Onie followed the familiar scent of the mailbags off the train and onto the wagon. But when he arrived at the Toledo post office, one of the clerks taking him to meet a local reporter tried to touch one of his tags.
And that's what set him off. And he bites the clerk in the hand very hard twice.
The clerk reeled off in pain. And when the postmaster came in to see what was going on, Onie attacked him too.
And the postmaster calls the U.S. Marshal named Shannon. Shannon comes into the room, takes out his pistol, and shoots Onie once in the head.
Onie was killed instantly. When the news got out, obituaries around the country mourned his passing, and his body was taken to Washington, D.C., at the post office's national headquarters. Over the years, as Onie went in and out of storage, he was forgotten. By the time Nancy stumbled upon him, the world's most famous canine had become a footnote. But thanks in part to her efforts, Onie is back in the spotlight, and in 2011, he got his own stamp. He also has his very own exhibit at the Smithsonian's Postal Museum. Nancy says it's one of the most popular exhibits there.
But we have a good number of people who will say in a blog or in a review or whatever, you know, it's a great museum, but it's got this disgusting stuffed dog.
Thank you so much to Nancy Pope for sharing Onie's story with us. And if you want to learn more, you can visit Onie in person and see some of those tags at the Smithsonian's National Postal Museum in Washington, D.C. We're going to have a link on our website to an interactive map of the museum put up showing all the places that we know Onie visited. It's is what it is. Check it out at snapjudgment.org. The sound design for that story was by Leon Morimoto. It was produced by Joe Rosenberg. You're listening to Snap Judgment, the end of the Rainbow episode. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Snap Judgment Underground Studios. Welcome back to Snap Judgment, the end of the Rainbow episode. My name is Glenn Washington, and today we're looking at people lucky enough to get a version of their fondest desires. In our next piece, walks the gossamer thread between truth and imagination, a brand new radio play inspired by author Kelly Link. Snap Judgment. Hello?
Hey, why would anyone need 3 jars of maraschino cherries?
What you doing?
Clearing out the fridge.
We've been through this. Your roommate is crazy. Find another place.
Some of us can't afford our own places.
Then some of us better not complain.
You are so annoying.
You call me.
So, what's your point?
Well, now that I have you, I started writing a story.
Oh, yeah? You know, I just finished another chapter. I'm sending it to my agent later today.
Okay, cool. So I got this idea last night. I was on the BART, about to go back across the bay, and I look across the car, and there's this woman. She's super hot. She's got this hair, blonde hair. She looks at me, smiles and winks at me. And she looks just like Beyonce.
I don't think Beyonce is getting off at West Oakland.
Well, think again. Because she gets off at my station. And now I'm walking with her. She stops in front of my building.
She must have thought you were super creepy.
I'm a creep for going home.
I mean, didn't she think you were following her? She didn't freak out?
No. We get to the building, go up the stairs, and understand this. She lives on my floor.
How convenient.
Hush. I'm telling you, we stopped in front of her door, which is right across the hallway from my door.
So there's a point to this story.
And she winks goodnight to me, and then she flickers. Like she's made out of a hologram.
Like beam me up, Scotty?
Like help me Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like she's a projection. She's flickering, and then she turns solid again like a real person. And then she unlocks her door and leaves me in the hallway.
So you didn't get invited inside?
I could have, if I wanted to. It was just weird. I don't know.
I've been in love with Jack for what feels like forever. I met him at one of his readings. I brought his first book, dog-eared and taped together. I waited in line for him to sign it, and when I held it out, he smiled at me, laughed a little. He said, "No one reads this book." And then he asked me out for a drink. Here's the thing about Jack. He doesn't really have the looks, but he's commanding. He took me for cocktails and told me about a woman he was sending anonymous love letters to. I felt invisible. Jack became my mentor, slashing my stories apart, writing mean, flirty comments in the margins. I wanted him bad. Still do, I guess. But he slowed down, and his agent has warned him that if he doesn't write another book in the next year, he's dropping him. And the thing is, I'm speeding up. I've got an agent now, too, a friend of Jack's. And I've got a novel. But I still call Jack daily, like a reflex.
Hello?
I didn't need that check.
I know. I was worried with the roommate.
I ripped it up.
A thank you would have been nice.
You know, you never give me any credit. You know I just got my advance, right? I'm actually okay, if you can believe it. I'm good. Yeah. So you see your new neighbor Beyonce recently?
Yeah. Actually, I was going to say she knocked on my door yesterday and asked to borrow a cup of sugar.
That's original.
Didn't recognize me, though, so I didn't bring the other night up.
So you gave her the sugar?
But when I go to shut the door, I watch her through the peephole.
Gross.
No. Look at here. She ate all the sugar. I watched her down the whole cup.
What?
I know. Get this. Then she knocks on my door again. When I open it, she just walks in, pours herself a drink. My best whiskey. And we drank like half the bottle. And then just start making out. Going for it. Amazing. I mean, she's amazing. She smelled like fresh laundry, and she tasted like cherries. And I go to, and it's smooth down there.
Oh, no, it's called the Brazilian.
No. It was like Barbie smooth. There was nothing going on. down there.
TMI, man. TMI. I don't think you're doing it right.
I look at the Beyonce lady, and she just gets up and walks out.
Smart woman.
Cause I'm telling the truth.
Okay, Jack.
Kelly used to flip when I told her I met someone, been with somebody. She'd be like, let's blow everything off and go to Vegas. Let's get married by 3 Elvises. And I would always change the subject, take her to dinner, in the night with maybe a kiss on the cheek, a little too close to her lips. But I never gave her an in. I would have never before tonight. Because tonight she just didn't seem to care. And now I'm just sitting here at my computer, cursor blinking, ready for words, and all I can think about is whether or not she's jealous. Which is stupid, right? Because of course she's jealous.
Hello?
Jack, I saw them.
Who?
The Beyonce women.
When? You saw more than one?
Yeah. I was leaving my agent's office, got into the elevator. There were 11 women in there. I counted. 11 Beyoncés. I get in and they stop talking. They're just there breathing, like together, perfectly in time. And they smell the same, like detergent.
Yes. That's what she smells like, my neighbor.
Their smell. That smell, it got more and more intense. It made my head hurt. So I closed my eyes just for a second. I thought. Because when I woke up, I was alone. And on the top floor of the building, there was a bunch of construction stuff everywhere, like drills and paint cans. And there was just no one.
Where'd they go?
I have no idea.
Hey, you know it's like 3 in the morning, right?
I'm still working on that sci-fi story.
Jesus, that's it? I thought you were in an accident or something. You woke me up.
I just want to talk.
I gotta go.
Why? Somebody there?
Yeah.
Who?
I met him at the bar. After my reading, a bunch of us went out.
Oh. I'm sorry. I totally forgot.
It's okay. It was a good turnout, actually. Anyway, I gotta go.
Wait. I want to ask you, are you okay?
Why wouldn't I be?
I mean, since them Beyonce fembots.
Oh, that. Yeah, I'm okay.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow. Brunch?
Oh, yeah. Maybe. I'll call you.
Okay, well. Call me, all right? Bye.
I wake up the man in my bed and ask him if he's ever slept with a blonde. He asks me if this is one of those jokes, and I say no. The man says to me, "You're kind of a blonde." And I choke out a laugh, because it's true. At first I thought maybe I was starting to go gray, but the hair is yellow. The color of honey, I mean. I've been finding blonde hairs on my pillow, and there's more and more of it every day. My skin smells so clean. And I'm losing hair where I shouldn't be losing hair. The man in my bed said something stupid like, "I like what you got going on down there." And I rolled my eyes.
Hey, it's Kelly. Leave a message. I'll call you back. Hey, it's Kelly. Leave a message. I'll call you back. Hey, it's Kelly. Leave a message. I'll call you back.
Damn it, Kelly. Answer the door. Kelly, I just need to see you.
Hello,
You're here? Let me in.
Jack.
Yeah. Why'd you text me back? I'm freaking out. After you said you weren't alone that night.
Hey there.
What happened to you?
You want some lemonade?
What happened to your hair? How you drink this? It's way too sweet.
Jack, let's sit down.
Kelly, you're scaring me to death. What happened? Why'd you disappear?
You know, I've been thinking about that sci-fi story you were writing.
You need somebody to call the cops? Are you all right?
I really think you should just give up on that one.
What?
You know, you shouldn't write sci-fi. You're a serious writer.
You don't want me to write about fembots.
I don't know what you mean by that. You're so silly.
Kelly, what's going on? What'd they do to you?
Jack, don't you like my hair?
It's not true, Snappers. It's not. Fembots are not taking over the world. And that's because the piece was 100% fiction from the mind of Kelly Link. Adapted, directed, and produced by Mark Ristich and Eliza Smith. Original score and sound design by Pat Mesiti-Miller. Voice actors were Joyce Lee and yours truly. Find all things Kelly Link on our website, snapjudgment.org. You've listened to another episode of Snap Judgment. Tell somebody, let your lover know. There are more full episodes right there for the asking. Amazing storytelling for you. Get the podcast. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, or head on over to snapjudgment.org. On Team Snap, the union-represented producers, artists, editors, and engineers are members of the National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians, Communications Workers of America, AFL-CIO, Local 51. Snap was produced by the team that never goes outside long enough to see a rainbow. Think of him in the dark of night, the Uber producer, Mark Ristich. The Pat Man, Mesiti-Miller. Anna just had a baby Sussman. Hey, Naomi. Nancy to the Lopez. Eliza's last name is still Smith. Davey Kim and M. Joe, Big Word Rosenberg. Renzo Gorio wears trucker caps. Leon Morimoto goes solo. Adiza Egan does not. Tail, hold the mail to cot. Liz Mack can't pack fat on a stack of hats. Jasmine Aguilera has a 270 bowling average, believe it. And even though this is not the news, who keeps mistaking this for the news? In fact, you could crash your UFO into the Loch Ness Monster with the Yeti in the back seat shouting directions and you would still not be as far away from the news as this is. This is PRX.